Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at the best builds for all 94 brawlers in the game right now. Well, actually, I'm going to include the other two new brawlers that are coming out. I don't even know when they're released. Well, Mina's in a couple of weeks and Ziggy later on. So let's just jump into it then. We're going to be going in rarity order. I'll be putting timestamps of all of the brawlers in the description below. I don't like to do these videos too often because not a whole lot really changes. But after like 3 months, you guys are just on it, especially when there's a new update. So let's bring it to you guys. So fast forward is the better gadget now. It recently received a rework where now you gain all of your ammo back, and I think it's better than fast forward, better than clay pigeon, sorry, because it's only 13-second cooldown. You can use all three of your attacks, super, and then gadget afterwards, get close to them, and you have another 3 pieces of ammo. It is just better overall. I think that Band-Aid is still just the better star power, but both of them are pretty, like, they're not really impactful, if that makes sense. So just okay. So either one is good. I just use Band-Aid just because it helps me survive in clutch situations, and then damage and the shield gear for Shelly. Next up, we have Nita. So Nita, as always, it just depends on the game mode which you're playing in. So you'll be using Bear with me pretty much everywhere, unless you have to, if you're facing off against a tank in like Brawl Ball, then I actually like, well, Bear with me is probably the safer option, but I do use the stun gadget into like brawlers like Ash, Kenji, etc., and use the Hyper Bear combination. That's really good if you can time your stuns correctly, but most of the time the safe option is just to go with this setup here with Faux Fur and Bear with me, especially because it just wastes so much opponent's ammo. But as I said, in Heist, you probably want to go for actually this kind of setup here, get the extra bit of shield and then the Hyper Bear on the safe with the pet gear. But then in terms of gears, I think normally, well, you do pretty much use Nita on those bustier maps, but because of Nita getting countered a lot in this meta, I think a lot of pros are opting for something like this instead of the damage gear, because you just need that extra bit of shield, because she really lacks the range right now and gets pinched really easily. Next up, we have Colt. So Colt, I think both gadgets pretty meh at the moment. Silver Bullet recently got 1 second cooldown buff, but I don't think it's really done too much. I think, well, you played Speed Loader on really open maps or inside of Heist, and then Silver Bullet everywhere else to break open the map and everything. So in terms of star powers, funny enough, I don't think Slick Boots even works at the moment as a weird bug. But again, this all comes down to preference, as I always say. I like Magnum Special, mainly because with Colt you get outranged pretty easily, so you do need that extra bit of range. But if you're really good at juking, you can't go wrong with this one as well. But I think most people do use Magnum Special. And in terms of gears then, well, you use Colt just purely for damage, especially in Heist. So if you like going Heist, it's probably going to look like a build like this. If you dare to play Colt anywhere else, you've got to slap on the shield gear and the reload gear there. Next up, we've got Bull. So Bull Stomper gadget is by far the better gadget overall still. Since the Bull rework, Stomper is better just because it literally stuns them. It stuns just even better than the slow that it used to have. Well, no, did it have slow? I think it did. Anyways, stun's just better, just allows you to connect onto them, land more shots, and then cycle through to your next super. T-Bone Injector can be usable in Heist, but I think with a 14-second cooldown, you've just got to go with Stomper. And then star powers, again, Heist you can go Berserker, but Tough Guy's just a safer option. Overall, just more survivability. It just allows you to get more shots onto enemy brawlers. So in terms of gears, I think this is by far the best setup for Bull, mainly because with Supercharge Epic gear, at least with a tank, you can gain more super with this gear through taking damage as well. So it's just better, and it changes interactions with Bull where you're able to cycle through super with 1 less ammo, and damage gear, of course, you want to go back on a tank. Next up, we have Brock. So Brock is a really good brawler in the meta right now, and that's thanks to his versatile options when it comes down to draft. So you guys know when you want to open up the map and there's no assassins, you want to go rocket fuel. It's one of the best gadgets inside of the game. Guaranteed hit, guaranteed wall break is really good. Then rocket laces is really good to swap into when you're facing off against any assassin like a Bonnie. So that's why Brock is one of the best options in Knockout and Bounty right now, because of the Bonnie meta. You know, you can use it to jump over Gene Port, etc. It's just really versatile, so I like both of them. Rocket fuel, of course, used to counter enemy throwers to break open the map, enemy tanks to break open the map, etc. So for that reason, both of them are really viable. And again, the same goes for both star powers. So more rockets I like most of the time, but again, if you're facing off against those assassins, then you want to go for like a build like this. Or some people just like rocket number 4. Me personally, I don't like it because it's very rare that you reload your 4th rocket, but you will need that extra rocket against those assassins especially. So if you're facing off against like a Kenji or something like that, rocket number 4. Most of the time though, I will say this is like my build and optimal setup, but you get, like, I don't think any other gears are really worthwhile with Brock as well, by the looks of it. So next up we got Primo. So Primo, most of the time you want to use Suplex Supplement, mainly because Asteroid Belt, it used to be good like years ago paired with B, for example, to open up the map, but it just doesn't make sense really to open up the map when you're a Primo with such a limited range. Yeah, he needs the walls up, so Suplex Supplement is better. Star Powers, again, this can come down to what Primo player you are. I will say that Meteor Rush is the better star power, I would say, in Brawl Ball, primarily. But I think El Fuego is very good. 1,800 damage is just so strong, especially against those squishy brawlers. You can confirm kills a lot easier, so I think if you're like a really good El Primo player, this is definitely the best build. Again, Supercharge gear allows you to cycle through supers, maybe with about like 1 less punch or 2 less punches. And especially when you're receiving damage, you gain your super quicker through this gear. So I really like it. Before, I used to like use the health gear, and that used to be okay, but I just think in those situations where you need a kill, you can cycle through super a lot quicker with supercharged gear. Next up, we have Barley. So with Barley, both gadgets are really, really strong. If you're playing ladder, then you want to defend yourself as much as possible with all of the assassins. So you want to go this one. But Herbal Tonic can be really, really strong, especially if you play Barley and Knockout. You know, there are a few niche situations for that. But mainly in Hot Zone. Hot Zone's really good with this gadget. It can help survivability. So both gadgets really, really good. And again, it depends on what matchup you have. Most of the time, Extra Nauseous is the better star power. But if you're facing off against other throwers, then medical use can be quite good because it just allows you to sustain yourself in that 1 versus 1 matchup. Especially if you're facing off against like a Sprout or just someone that outranges you. Medical use actually allows you to push up a little bit better because you're healing whilst they're not. You can just constantly be spamming attacks. You don't have to retreat. And then in terms of gears, with Barley, it's just a bit, yeah, with him. I think you can never really go wrong with this setup, but you can also go gadget cooldown as well. I won't really advise going any other gears with him. Next we have Poco. So Poco has fell off a lot since his big gadget nerfs in the past, which he definitely needed. He's completely fallen off. So both gadgets are just pretty, like, they're good like mechanically, but because of their cooldown, they're not actually that strong. So Tuning Fork is good when paired with tanks, and Protective Tunes is a great counter to a lot of stun mechanics in the game right now. There's so many, like there's like lose supers, there's just any type of slow. I'm trying to think, like even body hypercharge you can get rid of, kit stun, etc. But he's still just not strong enough in the meta for it to even make sense. So pretty much all the time you want to use Screeching Solo just because you really lack the DPS as a Poco. And then in terms of gears, you can see that I go with this setup most of the time because you want to spam your gadgets with Poco and you want that extra bit of survivability. But I want you know, you can go damage gear as well, but I like to go something like this for sure. And then lastly, Rosa. So Rosa, both gadgets are okay. I think it depends on the situation. Grow Light can be pretty good, but then sometimes it can also serve the opposite effects where, you know, if you die once, then the opponents get control of that grass. Yeah, it's a bit, I think Unfriendly Bush is just better. It allows you to scout bushes as well and just allows you to catch up to the opponents, where Rosa really lacks the range. So having that slow, being able to catch up to them is very, very strong. Thorny Gloves is the better star power overall right now. This is mainly due to the fact that Rosa just really lacks in damage department. Even after a recent-ish damage buff, she still needs the extra damage, so that's why you go speed and damage gear as well. With a tank, you can never go wrong with it, and you definitely need a speed gear. So Jessie is next, and with her gadgets, I think it's quite obvious in terms of game modes. You want to use this on Heist, Recall Spring, and then Spot Plug you want to be using everywhere else, and then Star Powers Energize every single time. And then with her gears, again, it depends on the game mode and situation. I think if you're playing a bush map, I'll go with this setup, but you can never really go wrong with Jessie with damage and shield. You could use Pet Power and Heist, but I don't think it's actually that optimal, especially because of the Heist rework. I think Pet Power's actually got that much worse, even though it's already pretty bad. Next we have Dynamite then. So with a Dynamite, you want to be going Satchel Charge, even though I actually... Fidget Spinner is kind of underrated, funny enough, mainly because it takes 23 seconds for this gadget, but instead it's a better gadget in my opinion, just because it can help you confirm kills easier. Demolition, of course, you want to be using all the time, unless there is like a niche situation for Dyna Jump to counter like Miko's Bonnie jumps. And if you're playing Pit Stop or Hot Potato, maybe Dyna Jump is the better one. And then gears, you can never really go wrong with that with Dynamite. In terms of tick, so you want to be using Last Toro pretty much all of the time. There might be some toxic situations where My Mania can actually be pretty good in some knockout maps, but Last Toro just for that survivability. And then for Tick, I think well lowered is your better star power by far, but again, I always have this soft spot for automatic reload, mainly because especially if you've got a really free matchup and you just know that you're just never going to receive any damage, well, you may as well just switch to the star power. And in terms of the gears, you never swap away from this unless it's a really bushy map, then you might want to opt for something like this setup, but never go wrong with that. Next up, 8-bit. So 8-bit, again, depends on the game mode that you're in. Most of the time, though, you want to use boosted booster. If you're playing gem grab, plugged in is better, or if you're facing off against a couple of counters, like really big counters, I don't know, like Penny, Brock, Colette, plugged in will be your better option because, again, he's an easy hit. But most time, boosted booster because you use 8-bit for the damage. Extra credits you can use in heist, but even then, like sometimes I don't even like using it there. Because with cheat cartridge, you could actually just put yourself in a really advanced situation, get a lot of damage, and then just teleport back safely to your turret. So this is setup you want to go for pretty much all the time. Reload speed gear, you want to be using 100% of the time. And then in terms of your gears, yeah, heist, you can switch to damage gear, but I just still actually like the health gear with 8-bit, just because he has 10k health, right? Like, just being able to heal up that much quicker allows you to get into gunfights a lot sooner and put the pressure on. Next up, we got Rico. So Rico, I think he can use Bouncy Castle on like Knockout if you play Knockout, Belle's Rock, for example, but most of the time there will be an aggressive brawler, so Multiple Launcher is the better one. Has received a lot of nerfs, but it's still a pretty good gadget overall. In terms of star powers, Super Bouncy is by far your better option. Robo Retreat can be pretty fun, and it sometimes has its uses, but I personally don't use it. All the Rico mains that I know pro players don't really use Robo Retreat. And then in terms of gears, I pretty much use this setup. I know like Chaos and a lot of people differ between their builds and whatever else. It can depend on the map as well. Like if you're playing Harder Up Mine, then you might just want to opt for this. But I think it's normally actually now since the gadget nerf, it's normally like this or this. You definitely, I like the epic gear just because you just spam out shots even more. Or even though you already has a fast enough reload speed, it just allows you to chip the opponents even more. Of course, who wouldn't want extra reload? You're always going to get value out of it. Next up, we've got Darryl. So Darryl, I do see a lot of people just always hating on this slowing one, but I like it, especially into like really easy matchups. You know, for example, if you're rolling on a standee that has no DPS and no stun, well, Tar Barrel can just allow you to confirm kills quicker. And if you're pulling people, if like you're able to get on top of people quicker, you're actually just dealing more damage. You're dealing more damage, you're getting more supercharge. Whereas recall and rotate is a little bit inconsistent. I can see why people use it outside of heist, but of course you want to use this inside of heist because if you get on heist safe, you can do, what was it, 8k damage. I don't know how much damage it does now, but it's a lot of damage. And every 12 seconds, yeah, it's up to you. But especially on like Knockout as well, if the gas is closing it, this is such a good gadget. Next, we got Star Powers. I never really like rolling reload whatsoever, even in a base race situation. I mean, maybe if you're playing Pit Stop and Hot Potato, yeah, I would, because they're really base race maps. But and next up we got gears. You pretty much never ever swap away from damage and the shield gear because you want to play really passively with Darryl and then roll in, and of course you want that extra shield. Next up we got Penny. Of course Salty Barrel is going to be a better option. Heavy coffers 90%. Maybe if you're playing gem grab or there's multiple aggressive brawlers, Master Blaster can be good to just that extra damage. You know, that's basically an extra shot that you can have through just putting your turret down. But sometimes when your turret is in a bad spot, so in terms of gears, you pretty much never want to swap away from this. You might want to opt for the health gear as well with Penny, but damage and definitely shield because she's pretty bad in this meta. So normally when brawlers are bad, you normally need a shield gear just to allow them to push up the map a bit better. So with Colt, as always, is very versatile. That's why he's a good brawler in the meta, because you can switch between his gadgets. Heat Ejector you want to be using on like bushier maps when you see a lot of tanks, you know, Brawl Ball, Gem Grab, Flying Hook. Again, you can pretty much use this everywhere in every situation. So if you only have this one, it's very good. But specifically, it's very, very good in Bounty to collect the blue star, because if you get the blue star, you're obviously winning, right? So that's just automatically like a win condition. So Flying Hook's always good for that reason, and also just good to throw yourself onto like throwers, snipers, brawlers that you counter, easy kill there. And then Star Powers, I don't think does Power Throw work, guys? I mean, every single update I feel like it's still broken, like not actually, it's bugged, not broken, it's bugged. Protector Barrette is a very good Star Power, but you definitely need it for Carl. And then in terms of Carl's gears, I like to swap between both of the health or damage. Depends on how aggressive you're being. If you know you're going to be a passive Carl, then this can actually be pretty good. And then damage is really good in close situations. And then lastly, we've got Jacky. So Jacky, of course, pneumatic booster is going to be your better option, and then counter crusher is going to be your better option. If you're facing a big hard counter, I'm talking 3 brawlers that are going to outrange you, then hardy harder is going to be your better option, but you need that extra bit of DPS with a Jacky. And then in terms of her star powers, you want to go speed and damage 99 times out of 100. And if it's a really rare situation, you're playing Jacky on an open map, then of course you want to use that, but there's no point wasting your coins on that. You just go speed and damage. Now moving on to Gus, starting off with gadgets. So gadgets, Cookie Popper and your star power Spirit Animal. I don't even need to explain. Cookie Popper, extra DPS. Spirit Animal, extra DPS. The other star power and gadget are completely and utterly useless for how Gus is played. In terms of your gears, and gears, a lot of them can swap depending if you're playing like Gem Grab or a bit of a bushier map. A lot of people use Vision and the shield gear with Gus. I think if you had a small amount of coins, you probably want to go with damage gear and shield gear with Gus, mainly because he lacks the damage, so you probably need that damage gear to just help him in those 1v1 interactions. I personally, though, I use health gear just because it just allows you to engage into gunfights a little bit easier, but yeah, damage and health are both very good with him. Next up, we've got Bow. So Bow, Super Totem, it's going to be your better gadget overall. If you play Heist, then Tripwire is the better one, but Super Totem's just better. Allows you to cycle through to mines 1, 2, 3 extra hits. You know what I mean? It's just easier, and it can help you tank some shots as well. And in terms of star powers, Snare a Bear, and then gears, again, you definitely want to use the reload speed gear, and then it is up to you whether you want to go damage or the health gear. I like the health gear mainly because it just allows him to, I don't know, he's at that kind of nice health threshold where health gear is going to actually feel pretty good on him, but it wouldn't put you away from going damage gear as well. Next up with M's Friend Zone, of course, you want to be using that and Bad Karma. I was like, what, 6 months ago, I used to always use Hype because it just reminded me of how I used to play M's in the past. Like, you'd want to get close to people and then benefit off of that healing, but I just don't think that healing is actually that much anymore. So Bad Karma is just better. You don't want to get close to people with M's anymore because you're just too easily countered. Extra bit of damage, why not? And then speed and damage gear with M's every time. Next we've got Stu. So Stu, both gadgets are pretty good, as you guys should know. Speed Zone, you want to be using on passive maps. You want to be using on Hot Zone. Gem Grab to help your gem grab mid and that 1v1. And then Breakthrough on those maps with key walls, or you just say if you really want to counter a specific brawler, maybe it's a thrower, maybe it's a Rico on the other side where you need to break up in the walls. This is just really good to confirm kills really easily. And then in terms of star powers, Gas a Heal 99% of the time. I don't really see any pro, even Stu mains, use zero drag, just because Gas a Heal just helps you in those 1v1s. And then with Stu, I feel like you definitely need the shield gear with Stu, and then most of them are just a bit depends on the situation. You can never go really wrong with damage gear, but then Gas a Heal kind of stops you from getting value out of the damage gear. But then what other gadget gears do you go? Like, do you go Vision? Do you go, it's just a bit, so you may as well just go damage if you're short on coins. Next up, we've got Piper. So again, depends on the situation here. Homemade recipe where you'd normally play Piper on Bounty and Knockout, because Piper's not really good anymore on Gem Grab, Brawl Ball, etc. Auto Aimer is better in those game modes because you can defend yourselves a bit against those assassins, but it's not exactly a great gadget anymore since they removed the slow, which I advocated for, but Homemade Recipe is a really strong gadget. And then Star Powers, Snappy Sniping, even on bushy maps. I always use Snappy Sniping. Even when Ambush got buffed that one time and people thought it was pretty good, I just don't think it's really that amazing. I mean, it sounds like a lot of damage, but I just think Snappy Sniping is just better. Like, you're able, especially against some of your counters, just gives you that extra bit of ammo. And then in terms of gears, this again, its opinion changed like 6 months ago. So damage gears, good overall, but health gear is actually better where Piper is good on, mainly because if you're in a sniper 1v1 and if they tap you, you've got to retreat, right? Because you don't want to get too tapped by those high damage dealing snipers. But the health gear allows you not to get pushed back all the way into spawn. You can actually start pushing back up the map a little bit better, if you guys understand that. So say, for example, in Shooting Star, in that 1v1 where the health gears are going to allow you to re-heal up and get your shield gear popping, so you no longer get too tapped again. Does that make sense? Well, yeah, health gear is just the one that pros use in that sniper 1v1. So next up, gadget, Scrap Sucker, 100%, Mama's Squeeze, pretty much all of the time. Unless it's a more open map, then of course Mama's Hook's better, but yeah, Star Powers, Pam here should be very rare in the meta. Mythic Gear, you definitely need this on Pam, and then pretty much use Pam on bushy maps, but If you're playing her on dual and beetles, a bit more open. Health gear can be pretty good as well. I actually will shy you away from going the gadget cooldown because she has one of the best gadgets inside of the game. So funnily enough, I actually go this type of build a lot of the time. But again, if you're playing like a super push map like double swoosh, then vision gear is really underrated on Pam. But let's just say you definitely got a mythic gear. I mean, it's up to you what you want to kind of play around with. I think probably the health gear is the safest one if you had to go with two. Next up, we've got Frank. So Frank, Irresistible Attraction is by far your better gadget. This can be useful, especially countering like here and a few other instances. But I think if you just perfectly time Irresistible Attraction, you're able to confirm way more kills. And it gives way much more value than active noise cancelling. And Power Grab is by far your better star power. It never used to be. Sponge used to always just be the optimal choice, but Power Grab just allows you that extra bit of damage, which Frank definitely needs. And then in terms of gears, you never want to shy away from that, unless of course it's this grassy map. But I'd still just advise going this setup with Frank, because most of the time you're going to be destroying the grass, so speed gear is not going to be the best for him. Next up, Bibi with a recent rework. So she's got a little bit better than meta, but she's not as broken as people are making it out. And of course, this gadget, the other one's just completely useless. And Star Power's Home Run is by far your better option, even with a recent rework. Batting stance you can use against a few brawlers. I don't know, like a few high damage brawlers, but Home Run's just better. Just gives you more value, especially with the rework. And then gears, you probably never really want to swap away from this one, to be honest, or you know, might want to play this setup if it's a bushy map. But yeah, I would go either health or the shield gear for Bibi. And then lastly, we have B. So B, Rattled Hive, definitely isn't as strong as it used to be with a 24-second cooldown. That is a pretty substantial one. It's nowhere near as good as before, but it's still a good gadget. Like, it's still going to get you pressure for free with a click of a green button. Honey Molasses is only useful against Jean. And if you want to play Knockout and Bounty, then you probably want to use that into Jean. That's about it, but I wouldn't recommend playing B in Bounty or Knockout. Star Powers, Honeycomb is your better star power for sure. All the pros use Honeycomb, but Insta B-Load can be good, and especially if you are facing a lot of tanks, then Insta B-Load is good because you don't really need that extra shield, right? Because you're already outranging the tanks, so you may as well just get that extra bit of damage. And then with B, I go damage gear and shield gear every time. So now moving on to Nani. Nani with the gadgets, again, depends on the situation. Return to Sender is where, well, the best gadget and where you normally use Nani. Use Nani on Bounty and Knockout to counter snipers, and you definitely need Return to Sender to do that. Warping Time is going to be better on every game mode outside of those, and it can be really good if you use it with Tempered Steel. I'm really good in Heist, for example. But again, if you're playing Nani right now in the meta, Nani's only really good in Knockout and Bounty. So in terms of gears, I like to fluctuate between these a lot of the times. I think most pros go with the health and the shield gear combination with Nani. Again, in that sniper versus sniper interaction, it is definitely essential, but I actually like supercharge gear because it just allows you to cycle through to super quicker, and the super is the thing that gets you the pressure in the game. Even though it doesn't kill many brawlers in the game, I just like being able to, again, just get that super a little bit quicker, you know, whether you need it to break open a wall and like out in the open. I just like it. So yeah, those are the builds with Nani. So next up, we've got Edgar. So Edgar is kind of a lost cause right now in the meta, just a bit meh in terms of gadgets. Let's Fly is obviously your better option. Hardcore can be underrated and like, I don't know, Showdown or something, but I think for good players, like if you use Hardcore, like Edgar's just a free kill because he just has no range and no pressure if he doesn't have his super. And in terms of star powers, Fisticuffs is of course going to be your better option. Sometimes I like hard landing, but I think just for the super cycling and 1v1 interactions, you need that extra bit of healing, but both aren't really that influential, I think, in 1v1. So again, I'm always confused on what gears to go. I think when Edgar's pretty bad in the meta, I think I've came to a conclusion. You need the damage gear because you get extra healing through his life steal when you use damage gear. And then you need the shield gear because he needs that extra bit of oomph. But I think when Edgar's good, you can actually switch around gadgets. You know, when he was completely broken, like I actually went for something like this because I was just spamming through gadgets and just jumping on everyone and killing them. But that's not the case right now. So you do need that extra bit of damage and that extra bit of shield. So Piggy Bank is your better option with Griff. And then Star Powers, Business Resilience is your better option by far. And I'm not, of course, saying Keep the Change is a very good star power, by the way. Like both star powers are really good, but business resilience is just better for sustaining life, you know, like hot zone, etc. But I won't shy away from keep the change, to be honest. I think it's very underrated, and especially if you're facing off against tanks, it just allows you to land shots more consistently, building up your super. So both are good, but the pros use business resilience, especially on hot zone. It's very good on hot zone. And in terms of your gears, then I think again a lot of people swap between health or the damage gear with Griff. I like the health gear with Griff's just that extra bit better, and of course you want to use the reload gear every time when you see it. Next up, we got a Grom. So Grom radio check is going to be better, because normally Grom's used as a late pick in Heist. He's used in Spirit Wars. Where else is he played? I don't even know. He's not even that great. He's used on Knockout. You know, if you want to counter Gene, then Watchtower can be good for that reason. Or if you use him as a last pick on center stage, maybe. Yeah, Watchtower can be good. Double swoosh, but he's not good enough in the meta for that. So both gadgets are very meh. But I think for when you use Grom, radio check's probably better. I don't know, maybe you can catch someone off guard with radio check and kill them pretty quickly. And then yeah, in terms of gears, it's a pretty no-brainer. Star powers, no-brainer. X Factor is by far your better option. The other one is terrible. Next we have Bonnie. So Bonnie, Sugar Rush, 100%. Black Powder, 100%. Do I even need to talk about it? Sugar Rush, such a strong gadget. Black Powder, being able to just super from further away, it's just better to land your supers. And then in terms of your gears, and I've actually noticed that a lot of pros do tend to use the health gear on Bonnie, funnily enough. I guess it kind of makes sense, just to allow you to sustain more on the map. But I really like damage gear on Bonnie. I don't know about you guys. Damage gear is just so good when you land on top of someone and you're pretty weak. Just allows you to confirm the kill. But health gear, especially when you're up against tough matchups, I think is the thing there. So if you're up against other enemy snipers, of course you want to go health gear. So I've noticed that I probably need to go a bit more health gear on Bonnie myself here. Next we've got Gale. So again, both gadgets are a bit at the moment, because yeah, Gale, he already counters tanks hard enough. He doesn't really need these gadgets. But Twister is of course the better option. But whether you want to play Gale on like I don't know, like parallel plays and a few other maps, and Spring Ejector could be better, it's just very meh. Twister's probably better. And then Star Powers, Freeze and Snow is by far your better option, mainly because his supercharge rate right now is pretty bad. If his supercharge rate got buffed a little bit, then Blustery Blow could be pretty impactful again. I think someone said it got nerfed, someone said it got buffed. I don't know which one it is. So I just use Freeze and Snow, because you use Gale right now on open maps, and then damage and shield gear with Gale. If you play Gale on like double swoosh on a bushier map, then of course this option is pretty good. But normally you play Gale on an open map, so you want the Freeze and Snow Star power. Next up, we've got Colette. So Colette's pretty bad in the meta right now, and Gotcha is by far her better gadget choice. And then Star Powers, like I say every single time, guys. I've been saying this for years, literally since Colette came out. Push It can be good into tanks, but it makes her very squishy and very, very easy to kill. I always use mass stacks no matter what, because if you're a good Colette, you just know how to use her supers effectively and just more survivability. Why wouldn't you want mass stacks? It pairs so well with Gotcha. So guys, please just use mass stacks. I don't know how many times I've got to tell you guys right now. And then with Colette, just use damage and shield gear, even though damage gear works a little bit weirdly with Colette, and just of course how she deals damage. Sometimes you can opt for gadget cooldown, but I think damage is just fair enough. What else do you really go with Colette? Next up, we've got Belle. So Belle, the better option for sure has to be Nest Egg. Just being able to, in a bounty game, get like 5 or even 6. Actually, won't be able to get 6 traps down, but you know what I mean. Just spam a lot of Nest Eggs down one lane. It's like impossible for someone to push down it, or whether you're playing that bridge too far. It's very good. Very good at confirming kills. I think the slow bug has been fixed, so it's actually pretty good now. Reverse polarity is actually very, very underrated on a select few knockout maps, because you can like bounce it against the wall and you're like guaranteed to get a hit on a choke point, you know, like out in the open, Belle's Rock. So I use a reverse polarity on a few knockout maps, but Nest Egg. And then positive feedback, if you're facing off against an assassin, sometimes this can work. It's very underrated for just that sole reason, but I guess it's not underrated if you can only use it in literally a couple of instances. And then gears, literally I go over this every single time. There's 0 point going anything else. Even if you're facing off against snipers, I just think the reload speed gear is such an essential gear to have. And then finally we have Ash. So I know Rotten Banana is low-key underrated, but I still think pretty much all the pros use Chill Pill, because it's still like, if Chill Pill got a nerf like to like 16, 17 seconds, then Rotten Banana would be better. But 13 seconds is very, very good for a healing gadget, especially if you're cycling through supers a lot. You're going to be able to heal up a lot, which is great. So Again, you want to use that synergy where you throw out your super and then you pop gadget instantly. When your rats hit someone, it just builds your rage back up anyway. So in terms of star powers, first bash, absolutely every single time. And then gears, you never want to swap away from this, guys, because you never play Ash on an open map. It's just not gonna work. So speed and damage. Again, if you play an open map, of course you go for health gear, but yeah, damage and speed, it's what all the pros go, guys. Okay, so now jumping into Lola. So with Lola, both gadgets are a little bit meh at the moment. Freeze frame used to be really good, but it's a bit meh. Stunt double, at least it gives you some extra health, but it's also like it's not very clean when you first tap it. Like, it's a little bit well, not bugged, I don't know, it's a little bit weird, it's not clean. Freeze frame is your better option though. That's what most people use. And then star power, sealed with a kiss, is a bit better, mainly because it just helps you survive better. You can heal your teammates as well, and it got buffed like a year ago, and ever since it's been pretty good. Improvise can be good as well, especially in heist. And then in terms of gears, then with Lola, it's a little bit weird with Lola, to be honest. Like, what do you even go with her? Maybe like I need to buy the shield gear with her because she's a little bit meh right now, and I guess the health gear doesn't really make sense with a heal star power. But like, what else do you really go? Maybe damage gear is probably better. Definitely reload speed though, even though it's a little bit bugged with her super. Yeah, Lola's a weird one. Yeah, she's just meh. In terms of Sam, magnetic field, hard to recovery. Yeah, both other gadget and star power just absolutely terrible, so just don't go them. And then gears, yeah, you want to go this with Sam every single time. Nice and easy. Next up, Mandy. The better gadget by far is Cookie Crumbs, in my opinion, because it allows you to cycle through to your super a lot more effectively. Just being able to shoot through walls, like, how is that not going to be a good gadget? It's like Angelo's gadget, but of course worse, because Mandy deals a lot less damage, but it's just for the super charging. Like, if you get an easy shot, you can finish off kills as well with this. I mean, Caramelize can be good, especially in like a nice open map, or if you're playing Brawl Ball or just a more aggressive game mode. But if you're playing Knockout and Bounty, where you normally play Mandy, then Cookie Crumbs is just better. I mean, Caramelize can be paired well with a super. It's not a bad gadget, but Cookie Crumbs is the one that the pros use. And again, I use health and shield gear a lot with Mandy, but I wouldn't shy away from the damage gear either, because why wouldn't you want your Mandy super to have extra damage? It can be pretty clutch. Next up, we've got Maisie. Maisie, disengage and tremors. Every single time, guys, disengage and tremors. The other two are just absolutely terrible. Damage gear and shield gear, you pretty much want to go this every single time with Maisie. Maybe vision gear in a weird situation, but yeah, again, nice and easy with Maisie. Hank, again, this is pretty easy as well, but this gadget right here is very, very underrated by the casual play base. Insanely underrated, especially into tanks. Like, if you're playing like an Ashe, a Kenji, every 11 seconds being able to slow them down and stop them from closing you down, it's just really, really good. 3 seconds slow every 11, that's very good. But Barricade is by far your better option overall, just because it's just guaranteed survivability. It's guaranteed you take more damage, which allows you to get more supercharge. Yeah, it's just better, more survivability, and it's gonna blow by far best, like 100% of the time. Not even like a small percent would go take cover. So at least you have a flexibility with gadgets depending on the situation. And then again with gears, you pretty much want to go this every single time. Before the gadget rework, I used to like spam not gadget rework, before the gadget nerf, I used to just spam like this, for example, but I think you just go health gear. It's really good with Hank. Next up, Pearl. Pearl has really fallen off in the meta, but Overcooked gadget is still the kind of saving grace with her, just because it allows you to sometimes get a kill. But I think the gadget nerfs over the past has definitely caught up to it, because only an extra 1,000 damage isn't really that much. And then Heat Shield is by far your better option. Heat Retention is good in niche situations. And then again with Pearl, you probably want to go with this setup, really. Maybe damage gear as well. Like, it's just a bit meh with Pearl. I mean, if you use Pearl on double swoosh, then you go with this instead. Definitely use the shield gear, then swap in as you go along. Next up, we've got the twins. So the twins recently, well, they're going to get a hypercharge pretty soon, so they're going to be really good in the meta pretty soon. But they're decent right now. Order fullback, by far a better option. I don't get why they've not fixed this gadget or made it better in any way. It's probably the worst gadget in the game. So order fullback, and that's recently been reworked as well. So that's why there's a bug right now, because this got reworked and probably the coding got messed up with other dashes. And then in terms of star powers, pretty much every pro uses a Sizz star power, just because it can help you gain a bit of ammo if your bot hits an enemy. Of course, that's going to be good. Protocol Protect can be good, but I think because of how long your super takes to get now, you don't really want to sacrifice your twin, right? You just don't want to do that. I mean, it can be helpful in like if you're up against, I don't know, snipers, it can be pretty good. Anyways, in terms of gears, you probably will never want to swap away from the damage and the shield gear. Next up with Angelo. Master Fletcher is by far your better gadget, guys. All of the pros seem to go it, but if you're playing ranked, then of course Sting and Flight can be good if you're facing off against a Kit or you're facing off against a Bonnie. Well, Sting and Flight is going to be better. Actually, I think you get more use out of Sting and Flight now with the recent meta changes, to be fair. But I think Master Fletcher is still better because 4K shot through a wall, why wouldn't you want that? Especially on Knockout Bounty, confirm kills really easily with it. And then Empower 100% of the time. And then this one's a funny one. I think a lot of people prefer damage gear with Angelo, but I think because I'm not the best Angelo player, for whatever reason, I'm good with snipers, but just not Angelo. Health gear, you know, I can't cycle through to my super stat effectively, so health gear is better for those people with worse aim. Me. But damage gear is better for those good Angelo players. And then lastly with Barry. Friendship is great everywhere outside of Heist. You want to be using this gadget inside of Heist because it's just guaranteed, what is it, 10, 20%? I can't remember top. I think it's 20%, which is crazy. And then in terms of star powers, Floor is fine every single time, 100% literally. Also, Friendship is great. It's such a good gadget because it helps you cycle through to super quicker when you heal yourself. And then gears, I think it's either the damage gear or gadget cooldown. You can go with gadget cooldown if you're facing off against more aggro brawlers. Definitely recommend it. More knockbacks helps you survive. Damage gear is great because once you're low enough, you actually heal more with the damage gear. And then that's it. Okay, so now we're moving into Shade. So with Shade, both gadget, well, actually, why did I say both gadgets? Only one gadget is useful here. Long arms is by far a better option. Jump scare is absolutely terrible. 9 sec, why? It just doesn't even do anything. Like, hello? Why are we not reworking this? Stop powers as well, Hardened Hoodie. Like, again, this first stop power just doesn't really make sense with how Shade is played right now. And then, again, I use damage gear and the shield gear every single time with Shade. Next up, we've got Meeple. Both gadgets are very, very strong. Some of the best gadgets inside of the game. That's why they have such a long cooldown. Manchester Meeple is better in those situations where you might lack the range into snipers, knockout, bounty. And then Rage Quit is better in like Brawl Ball, Brawl Hockey, if you guys still play that, or into Assassins and Aggro Brawlers. So both are really strong gadgets. Recommend getting them both. And then with Meeple, I pretty much go damage and shield gear every single time. With Meeple, you need that extra bit of damage because he has such a slow reload speed, so you do need that. And then in terms of your star powers, I do actually like Do Not Pass Go a bit better, just because just the way you use Meeple confirms kills better. But if it's a more open map, then but this star power is good as well. At least with this star power you get guaranteed value, but I just think like the pros use Do Not Pass Go a lot more. And next up we got Trunk. So Trunk recently got released and he's still pretty bad even with the tank trait, but Worker Ants is by far your better gadget. I did predict it once he got the tank trait. Without the tank trait, this was the better gadget, just because it just allowed you to just get more speed. But Worker Ants is just better because it essentially means you're wasting an ammo from the opponent because you could just tank all of that damage. So it's really good in 1 versus 1s, trust me. And then in terms of star powers, of course, again, easily this star power. It's always with a lot of brawlers, like 1 star power is just unusable. So hopefully some of these get fixed in the future, but Ants Reveal and Hidden, I just don't think that makes any sense really. And then star powers, of course, you want to be using this matchup, maybe outside, or, you know, if it's non-bushy map, this, but you play Trunk and tanks on bushy maps, so speed and damage. Next up, we have Mortis then. So Mortis, I think most good Mortis players play damage and mythic gear, by the way. I just wanted to point that out, just because the damage gear can help you heal more through your bats, and in 1 versus 1s can really help you with that extra bit of damage, but definitely the mythic gear. I remember when people thought the mythic gear was bad, and I was one of them. I think pretty much everybody was one of them, but the mythic gear is actually really, really good. And then with gadgets, definitely Survival Shovel and definitely Cord Snake. I think it's just like not even a debate. Everybody uses this and this setup. So yeah, this is the best setup. You can use the shield gear as well. In some matchups you might need that extra bit of health, but damage gear is just better overall. And in terms of Tara, Support from Beyond is your better gadget by far, but there will be a few instances where you're facing off against like an Amber or a Sandy, or you know, like a Jae-Yong that can just pierce through all your pets. You can switch over to Psychic Enhancer. It's not really that good of a gadget. And then with Tara, I've actually been swapping my build out a lot. A lot of pros actually go speed and the vision gear now with Tara, just mainly because I don't think you need that extra damage with her, and vision gear is just essential on a bushy map. So yeah, people do use this setup a lot of the time, but if you're on not like a super bushy map, I'm trying to think of an example, you might want to go for something like this instead. So I will actually stay away from the damage gear with Tara. you can use it. It is a good gear, but people just go for a different setup nowadays. And then in terms of star powers, Healing Shade is your better choice, but Black Portal can be good into those single shot brawlers. So yeah, I'd go like, if you're playing Tara on a good Tara map like Double Swoosh, you're going to use the Vision Gear on Tara. Next up, we have Jean. So Jean, of course, in Bounty Knockout, use Vengeful Spirits. If you're facing off against some aggressive brawlers, though, Lamp Blowout can be a better option, especially like Gem Grab. But Vengeful Spirits is one of the best gadgets inside of the game, weirdly enough. Even though it doesn't do a lot of damage, it's just very good for pressure on like Shooting Star. And then Magic Puffs is your better star power. You can use Spirit Slap if you're facing off against multiple aggro brawlers, where you need that extra bit of damage, but it's very rare. Unless you're the best Gene in the world like me, I wouldn't advise using Spirit Slap. And then gears, again, it depends. With Gene, I actually recommend buying 3 gears. You want to be using Vision Gear, Mythic Gear, and the Shield Gear, because a lot of the time, you might be using Gene on an open map. Well, Vision Gear is going to get no value, but you definitely need all 3 gears for a Gene. Next up, we have Max. So Max is pretty out of the meta right now, but Phase Shifter is one of the best gadgets inside of the game. And then Star Power's Running Gun is by far your better option. You know, the other Star Power can get value if it's a super passive map and you're not a good Max player, but the good Max players, they want that extra DPS. They want, yeah, Max is a really slow reload speed, it feels like, with the other Star Power. And gears, as I always say with Max, you can swap between quite a few. Damage gear, health gear, it's up to you. I like the health gear on Max, but damage gear as well is pretty good. You definitely need a shield gear on Max. Next up, we have Mr. P. So Mr. P, both gadgets are just a bit meh. Portal Reinforcements is just my better one. I used to always love Service Belle, but I think since the gadget rework, you can just spam this gadget out here. And although it doesn't seem like it does a lot, at least it can just scout bushes and it just wastes 1 piece of ammo from a sniper, which actually is all that you can need to help build up your first portal. So it's just helps you build up that first super, which can be pretty difficult sometimes. Revolving Door is your better star power. I feel like Handle with Care is, no, it's not underrated, but there's been a few times someone's used it and I'm like, whoa, that's actually dealing a lot of damage. In terms of the gears then, with Mr. P, I think I should probably switch off gadget cooldown with Mr. P. So yeah, I'd go with either one of these. No, low-key, I could buy the health gear with Mr. P as well as the speed gear. So I'm just going to buy both of these because I've seen a few instances where someone has used speed gear on Mr. P. But yeah, what do you even go? You can go a lot of things. It depends on the map. I think to be safe, damage and shield though, to be fair. But you can see I bought all the gears. All of them are pretty good at Mr. P. Transplant is by far your better gadget with Sprout. And then Overgrowth is by far your better star power. Gears, again, this is by far your better option because you can cycle your 1 shot quicker. So 4 shots instead of 5 with a supercharged gear. And then the shield gear is your better choice because Sprout is super squishy. So now moving into Byron. So he's receiving a hypercharge pretty soon, or even by the time you've watched this, he might have one. But booster shots is your better option, mainly because it just helps you hit shots easier. It helps you defend easier, whether there's Assassin Brawler. It helps you cycle through to your super, which can, again, help you defend or be aggressive. I mean, shot in the arm can be okay sometimes, but booster shots is just better, and Malaise is by far your better option, like by far. Injection can be good in some instances in Hot Zone, but Malaise is better. And then again, I like this setup with Byron just because with Byron you want to use spam booster shots as much as possible so you can cycle through to super small. So I just like gadget cooldown, although it's not essential. You can probably go with damage as well, but you definitely need the shield gear with Byron. Next up, we've got Squeak. So Squeak, Wind Up is by far your better option right now in the meta, especially if you're playing Knockout or Bounty. It's very good just to get pressure up. If you hit somebody, you know, they've got to retreat and you can just pressure them through that way. Helps build up your super. It's just really good. Residue is useful now, especially since the slow bug has been fixed, but it's only really good on like bushy maps and you don't really want to use Squeak there. And then Star Powers, I think Super Sticky is your better option overall. I do actually like using Chain Reaction with the Wind Up gadget, especially against snipers. But if you're facing off against a couple of tanky brawlers, which you might think, oh, Chain Reaction, you leave that extra DPS. Well, no, Super Sticky actually allows you to cycle super better against those tanks. And then, as you can see, I swap between a lot, to be fair, but I think I've kind of settled on the health gear and shield gear with Squeak. Health gear feels so good on Squeak. I love it. Next up, we've got Lou. So Lou, definitely Cyro's Syrup, however you say it, is your better option, but a lot of people actually use Ice Block, especially in like Hot Zone. Sometimes it's actually pretty hard to get a freeze onto pros because they won't jump onto Lou's Ice Rink. So Ice Block can be just good for survivability in Hot Zone. Weirdly enough, it is pretty weird. Pros use it. Hypothermia is by far your better option, by the way. Super cool. Whoever tells you that is good, just unsubscribe from them because it's not useful at all. Hypothermia is one of the best stock powers inside of the game. And in terms of your gears, then you want to be using damage and the supercharged gear all of the time, really. I mean, you can probably get value out of the health gear as well if you really wanted to, but there's no point really buying it. Definitely do the supercharged gear though. Next up, we got Ruffs. So Ruffs is a really good brawler in the meta now since his buff. So in terms of his build, air support is your better option overall, just because clicking it just allows you to get pressure on the map. Although it might not always hit somebody, at least, you know, it zones people out. It stops them from pushing towards an objective. You know, if hot zone, you're on the hot zone, you spam this gadget, you're just getting more percentage whilst they're not. But takeover is also very, very good against, you know, surge, B snipers. It can be very, very good for that reason. So switch between the two, but most of the time I find myself using air support. And then SBRR, you're just going to use this because it allows you to break open maps, which is why I use Ruffs a lot of the time. But field promotion can be really good in some cheesy ways inside of bounty. You know, if you just want to group up, then you may as well use that. And then gears with Ruffs, you probably never want to swap away from this, to be honest. I mean, maybe if playing gem grab, in a few other instances, vision gear is pretty good on Ruffs, but damage, definitely shield on Ruffs. Next up, we've got Buzz. So Buzz, both gadgets are useful. Most of the time, use the first gadget, but X-ray shades is very good on ladder if you're all showdown as well. If it's a bushy map, then of course this can be good paired with Eyes Sharp. But because of how Buzz is in the meta right now, he's not very good right now. In pro play, he's not used. But if you was to use him, it would be for the niche situation to get a longer stun onto people, you know, over tanks and confirm kills. So tougher torpedo is actually pretty good for that reason. And then because he's not the greatest in the meta, he needs the extra damage and the shield gear to help him in those 1v1s. Next, Fang. Fang is a funny one. I think because he's not the best in the meta, Corn Through it's underrated. I kind of like it in some instances. Roundhouse Kick is probably there for the pro Fang players. And it's very good at some combinations, because what it also helps you do, it helps you just attack quicker. Because if you attack and then gadget and attack, you can get a combination a lot quicker than just attack, if that makes sense. It interrupts the reload, the unload speed, whatever it's called. And next up, we've got Star Powers. So Star Powers, because of how Fang is in the meta, Divine Souls is your better Star Power, just because it's really hard to kill somebody with your super nowadays, especially just with all the health buffs, etc. So Divine Souls is better. And then damage gear and the shield gear with Fang is your much better choice. Eve is next. So the other gadget is useless. God to Go is really good for you just jump, like it's a good gadget to have. And then Star Powers, Unnatural Order is better just because it allows you to just get more consistent damage. Happy Surprise seems good in theory, but again, you're kind of sacrificing a lot of damage, and it's a little bit inconsistent as well. You're not always going to hit that last egg. So yeah, everybody, all the pros use Unnatural Order. And then again, you can never really go wrong with, you always want to use the reload speed gear, and then you can never go wrong with the shield gear. I mean, maybe if you're playing heist, you can go with damage as well. I've stopped kind of using quadruplets really, unless you're facing snipers, just because I think you get more value out of other gears. And because of her hypercharge, that's probably when you're going to be countering those snipers the hardest, through just unlimited spawners. So I don't think the mythic gear really helps you at all. So next up, we got Janet. Both gadgets are really good in this meta, but I actually think Backstage Pass is the better gadget in this meta, funnily enough. And it might not be for everyone because of how pros use it. This is only for pros, because what you can actually do with Janet is when you're attacking, what people do, so they play claw. So that means, you know, they play like that on their like tablet device, and they've got the gadget button at the top of their screen. So what they'll do is they'll hold their attack with Janet, which normally your attack is at the bottom, and then with your top finger, whilst you're holding the attack with Janet, you can just tap Backstage Pass at any point when you play claw. It's hard, you can't obviously really do that if you're not playing claw, because you've got to like tap Backstage Pass and then shoot. But like pros can instantly tap it. The reason why I say this is because into like Lily or Kenji, all of these broken hypercharges in Gem Grab, you can jump over these mechanics and defend yourself, especially against Lily. So yeah, pros have been using that. A long-winded explanation, but I think it's needed. Drop the base is really good though, especially on those bushier maps. So most people probably would just opt for this. It's a safe option to stop the opponents from regenerating health. Vocal, warm up 100% of the time. And then Janet, again, bushy map, use this. non-bushy map, use damage and shield. Yeah, both are good. I think you probably need all 4 gears with Janet. Lastly, we have Otis. So a newcomer in the meta, but since his recent buff, he's actually pretty good again. Fat splatter 100% of the time, recently got a buff as well. And then ink refills, it's easy with a Otis. And then with Otis, I always struggle on what to go with Otis because it depends on the map. I think in a lot of maps where Otis is good on, you do go for this setup pretty much all the time, but there's not a lot of good Otis maps right now, so I see myself just going this because you could just spam more gadgets out. The gadgets can help stop the regeneration from, or the health regeneration from the enemies. It's good for that reason. I guess you can never go wrong with this setup as well, so what I'm kind of saying here is go damage gear and then play between the two. You know, you can't go wrong with epic gear either because it allows you to cycle through super quicker. So now moving on to Buster, starting off with the gadget. Slow-mo replay 100%. Kevlar vest 100% as well. Is so good against countering brawlers like Tara or just a lot of brawlers that have that kind of stun mechanic. Well, like Kit, Ollie with his hypnotize, Bonnie with her hypercharge, so it's a great counter to a lot of these brawlers. And then speed and damage pretty much every single time with Buster. Unless it is a open map, then I opt for one of these setups right here, but normally it's just speed and damage with the Buster. Next up we've got Grey. So Grey, this all depends on the matchup. Walking cane though 100% of the time. Some weird people use Grand Piano, but to me it makes no sense. Maybe on out in the open. Still don't like it there. And then again, game mode dependent, fake injury, knockout bounty, everywhere else new perspective. And in terms of gears, I just always go with the gadget cooldown because gadget, this walking cane is just essential for the way that you play Grey. It allows you to make cool techniques with Grey and his teleport to make like a longer gene pool. Just allows you to confirm kill. It's just the reason why you play Grey, because of the gadget, right? Next up we've got RT. So RT out of line is much better than the other gadget, but hacks can be good in some longer range maps, you know, like shooting star out in the open. Hacks can be better for that reason, but outline is just very strong. Recording is always your go-to star power. Quick maths can seem good in longer range maps, but I still wouldn't go. Maybe only shooting star. That's probably the only instance I would use as star power. And then gears, again, you never stay away from health and damage, health and shield with 8-bit RT. Probably looks like 8-bit low-key though. Next up, Willow. Willow, both gadgets can seem pretty good. I think Spellbound is a little underrated, but most of pros use Dive, mainly because it can just help you in some instances, you know, like a Tara, Gene Pool, and it's like Buzz Super. You're probably going to die anyways, right? But at least it can help you get some extra shots in. It can help you reload, because I think you reload whilst you dive, I think, off the top of my head. Next, we've got Star Power. So Love is Blind is your better one overall. Now, I think they've fixed it. I think, if I'm not mistaken. Someone let me know in the comments. Obsession is better in Brawlable, though. And then, yeah, you pretty much never swap away from this with Willow. Next up, we have Doug. Doug, Extra Mustard is by far your better option, even when, like, if you're primarily, there's a few, like, bounty situations or knockout where you're just only healing. I still think Extra Mustard is just better, because eventually someone will get close to you. They just will. And if you catch them lacking, you hit them with a double wiener and you destroy them. And Star Power's self-service is by far your better option. Some people try and say that this one is better since it got reworked. When Doug revives, you get it sounds good, but yeah, I think self-service is better because it helps in 1v1s, and also you healing up yourself also gives you supercharge. So why wouldn't you go with this star power? And speed and damage all the time with Doug. Next up we got Chuck. So Chuck is an interesting one because you can use pretty much everything with Chuck. So rerouting is actually pretty good on some heist maps, especially in pro play, because there might be some instances where it's pretty hard to get to the safe. So you kind of put 2 posts at the same point, you super to it, you press gadget, and then you throw your next post onto the high safe. You get what I mean? So rerouting can be good for that reason. And then Ghost Train is most of the time your better option. Pretty much I use Ghost Train. Just because if there's a situation you're behind a wall, you try not to feed the opponent super, then you can pop gadget super, surprise them, kill them. And especially if you're using Chuck on a weird map in knockout, in hot zone, I don't know, just some weird ways. Yeah, it's Chuck, isn't it? Pit stop you probably want to be using every single time, but again, if you're using Chuck in a weird situation, whether it be, there's a few instances you might use tickets please, but pit stop is probably better. And then it's up to you what kind of it depends on what map you're playing. Actually, I think Kaboom Canyon you can use like health gear and damage with Chuck, but shield gear probably is better because most of the time you're probably going to be dying with Chuck anyways, or you're going to be you're probably going to be dying, but if you find yourself actually like not dying much with Chuck, so health gear would help you just get back into the action a lot quicker. Next up, we've got Charlie. Charlie, Spider's gadget, pretty much every single time with Charlie. So good at tanking shots. Personal space, if the opponents are using multiple Pierce brawlers like Sandy, Amber, etc., personal space will be better. Also, personal space is really good on gem grab because right now there's so many broken hypercharged brawlers which can just kill a gem carrier. And Charlie's one of the best gem carriers right now. So personal space just allows you to it sometimes saves your lives. It sometimes really does. It's really good at like into a Kenji hypercharge, a Lily hypercharge, etc. In terms of gears, again, it depends on what matchup you're on. If you're facing off against snipers, you probably want to go with a gadget cooldown and spam those spiders. And then damage gear can be pretty good. Always go shield gear though. And then, oh yeah, star power. Digestive, people think that's good, but it's not good because it's just not. It's like one extra less ammo. And it's only really good into tanks if they are full health. And that's very rare, right? So Slimy's better because especially if one of their teammates shoots the cocoon, like even once a little bit, they'll get freed, but then they'll get slowed. I think even if it just decays naturally, I think they get slowed for a little bit. So just for that reason, it's good. And also if you miss it, it leaves behind a slimy trail. So of course that's good. And then Miko, both gadgets are actually pretty good. Presto is good in some maps, for example, like Bridge Too Far. I think you probably need this Presto one. But Clipping Scream is actually really good for that extra bit of damage and can help you confirm kills. So it's up to you. I think Clipping Scream is better. And then it depends on the game mode, of course. Monkey Business, outside of Heist. Heist, you go Record Smash or Showdown. And then Gears, you never want to swap away from this setup. And then lastly, Melody. So Melody, interlude every single time. There are some niche situations where Perfect Pitch is better, like Triple Dribble, few other maps, but interlude is better. Fast Beats is by far your better option. And then with Melody, you never want to shine away from this setup here. Okay, we're nearing the end here, but let's go with Lily. So Lily, Vanish Gadget is probably the best gadget inside of the game. It's so broken, just use Vanish Gadget. And then the Star Powers Vigilance is by far your better choice. It sounds good again, that extra damage with your super, but just because I think with Lily, most of the time you are going to be killing people with your super when you hit somebody, and you don't need that extra 1000 damage really, because her unload and reload speed is so fast, it doesn't matter. And with Vigilance, especially against tough matchups, you get that extra speed. It's just really hard to deal with a Lily. You think about it, she's very fast anyway. On top of 15% speed boost, she's just really hard to predict. And then you want to just go this setup with Lily because you're an assassin, 1 versus 1, so of course damage and shield are going to be your most important factors. Next up, we've got Clancy. So Clancy recently got like 3 changes. I think 2 of them were a buff and 1 was a nerf. They nerfed the Recon Star Power, I believe, wasn't it? Yeah, you got 3 extra tokens before. Now it's only 2 extra tokens. So low-key, I think the other Star Power could be better. I'm just unsure right now. I don't think Clancy's a good brawler, so Recon probably is your better choice, but Tactical Retreat can also be pretty good against like Assassins, Carl example. I think it's tough. I think Recon and then this one is probably still your better choice just because you want to get to that final level as quickly as possible with Clancy. But if you've got a really good matchup, if you've got multiple tanks, then you may as well go for this setup, right? Because you're going to get your final level easier. But again, tough matchups, you got to be switching over to this. And then with Clancy, just damage and shield. Yeah, he's still pretty bad in the meta. Next up, Mo dodgy digging 100% of the time, because it just helps you cycle through super quicker, and it takes a long time to get a Mo super. Skipping stones you want to be using pretty much all of the time, but as I always say, one of the secret tips inside of Brawl Stars, speeding ticket is so good when you get outranged, just literally for that reason, because at least it gives you an extra bit of range, whilst this one has less range. If you guys didn't know, damage and shield gear with Mo, you don't really need to go anything else. Next up with Juju. So Juju, I think there's still a bug with this first gadget where it doesn't work properly. It's been in the game since she got released last year, which is kind of crazy, but Elementalist is really, really good because you get 3 different types of buffs, and especially the shield or invisibility are by far the best ones. It's so good. At Star Power, again, like both of them are pretty good. I think you go Guarded Gree when you're facing off against high damage brawlers, so those snipers or something like that, then this is better, just to tank an extra shot, because it's never really going to get close to them anyway, right? So you may as well just use it to tank an extra shot. Numbing needles is good against those assassins and tanks when you know that is going to be hitting the opponent. And then in terms of gears, again, you never really want to swap away from this. Next up, we've got Ollie. So Ollie's going to be an interesting one. He's probably going to be the best brawler in the game once his hypercharge gets released. And most people use All Eyes on Me now, mainly because it's got a shorter cooldown and it helps defend himself against his bigger weaknesses, because Ollie doesn't have a lot of damage. So if another assassin or a tank gets close to him, he's screwed if you use Regulate. But if you use All Eyes on Me, he can actually counter those assassins and tanks. So it depends on the matchup though. Regulate is still a really good gadget, but because you can combine it with your super. But All Eyes on Me is the one that the pros use. And then Renegade is by far your better star power. I will say that this star power is used sometimes by pros on like Belle's Rock and a few other maps, but I don't like it personally. Renegade is better. And then with Ollie, you want to use this setup every single time with Ollie. So good. I mean, you want to use speed gear if it's like sneaky fields, but you want to use health gear. It's really good on Ollie. Next up with Lumi. This gadget is by far a better option. I remember when people thought that this gadget would be good for some reason, which is just hilarious. I always knew it would be terrible, because it's just literally like 360 damage and it doesn't even set you on fire. It reminds me of the old Carl gadget, if like that didn't used to set you on fire, which is just hilarious. So this is just better. Mini lose supers, why wouldn't you use it? Half time as well, by far a better choice. I knew straight away, again, like that just doesn't really make sense. That star power, the slow is so good. And then with Lumi, I like to swap between a lot of different things with Lumi. Sometimes I use the gadget because I like just spamming gadgets as much as possible. Damage gear is probably your safest bet. Sometimes I use health gear as well. Like, I like to swap a lot, but if you're very limited to coins, damage and shield is the way to go. Next we've got Finks. So Finks' best gadget by far is back to the Finksture. It's one of the best gadgets inside of a game. And then with star powers, again, definitely the first star power. Remember, again, some YouTubers were saying this was the better one upon release, which again just made no sense, mainly because like it's very like even if you hit a few of the shots, you know, you're extending it for a second. That's not really going to do much, right? You have to hit 4 shots. Yeah, it's just, this one's really good, especially good at countering assassins, and especially Lumi. It's really good at countering. And then gears, I go with health and the shield, but you can definitely go with damage gear as well with Finks. Jae-Yong is next, and Weekend Warrior is by far your better gadget. Allows him to compete against those assassins and whatever else. And then the crowd goes mild as well, mainly because with his star power, it's just very rare that people line up and you get any damage. So yeah, it's just not that good. I thought it could be useful, but it's just not. Yeah, both star powers aren't really useful. Then I go with health, but you can go with damage gear as well. I think health is better just because you don't really heal yourself up with Jae-Yong, so yeah, health gear just works better. And then cold-blooded is by far your better option with Ali, just because it gives you, when you're enraged, you get extra reload speed and you get extra range through every point of your attack. So yeah, very good. And then your better run, of course, is better as well. Yeah, the other one seemed interesting upon release. Like, I thought this would actually be a really good gadget upon release, but I think just because of how broken her enraged feature is, you've just got to try and abuse it as much as possible. And then damage and shield, you want to be going with a Lumi, with an Ali. But on those bushy maps, of course, you want to go like speed and damage with the Ali. And yeah, that's it. And to finally end things off, I'm going to go through all the legendary brawlers in one take here. So let's start off with Spike. Life Plant is your better option overall. If you're playing Heist, pop in Pincushion, but Life Plant is better. In terms of star powers, Curveball is your better option, but low-key, Fertilize is pretty good in this meta, especially because Spike is still pretty squishy, and it can help you on like sneaky fields and a few maps, which Spike is pretty good in Mythic gear and the shield gear with Spike always. Crow. Crow is a funny one because now he has changed quite a lot. Defensive booster is by far your better gadget now. By far. Slowing Toxin used to be alright, but defensive booster, especially with Crow's recent health buff, is just by far your better choice. And then Star Power's extra toxic all of the time now. I mean, if you're facing off against multiple tanks, carrying Crow can be okay. And it used to be really good in Heist, but since the Heist rework, it doesn't really make sense anymore to use it. And Enduring Toxins, I do use this most of the time. You can use damage gear as well, but definitely use the shield gear with Crow. Leon is next. Leon, you want to be using Lollipop Drop. I mean, maybe on like Shooting Star Clone Projector can be used, but I don't see the point. Lollipop Drop, Star Powers. I'm a firm believer in Smoke Trails. I've seen the light. Like years ago, I used to think Invisiheal was better. I mean, Invisiheal still is a really, really good Star Power. But Smoke Trails is so good at cycling through your supers. It's crazy. The surprise element, people honestly, even in high level lobbies, just don't expect it. They don't. I mean, but Invisiheal is also really good as well. But I use the Mythic gear with Leon no matter what, and the shield gear. You can probably opt for something like this as well, but again, just because you need that extra couple of seconds, like 2 seconds longer, is actually pretty good with Leon. Next up, we've got Sandy. Sweet Dreams 100%, Rude Sands 100%. Speed and damage are your go-to options pretty much every single time. Maybe there's an odd instance where you might use Vision Gear on Double Swoosh, but I still won't even use that because with Sandy, you're always going to be close to people. Next up, we've got Amber. Amber's gadgets, both of them are pretty good. Fire Starters is good for cycling supers. Dancing Flames is good to defend yourself. Most of the time you use Dancing Flames, but on open maps, Fire Starters is better. And then use Wild Flames every time with Amber. This Star Power seems good, but it's just a little bit awkward to use. If you know how to use it correctly, I won't put it off. But most of the time with Amber, right, you want to throw your super as much as possible and just connect it onto people. So use this Star Power. In terms of gears, I swap between either like shield, damage, vision gear, but definitely use the reload speed gear. Most time I use vision gear. I know people will say, well, if you burn the grass, then what's the point in vision gear? Well, Amber's very suspect to aggro brawlers, so use vision gear so it stops people creeping up on you. Obviously use it for that reason. Next up, Meg. Meg's gadgets, both of them are okay. Jolting Volts is your better one by far, but Toolbox sometimes can be useful. Very rarely. Heavy Metal is by far your better Star Power of choice. And then gears, I probably never swap away from this setup, to be honest. Sometimes you can use health gear, but I think since she got that big health nerf, I've been using damage gear with Meg. Next up, we've got Surge. Surge, it's pretty easy. Power Shield, you want to be using on ladder and good matchups, but because of how bad Surge is right now, a lot of pros use Power Surge. I mean, Surge doesn't even get picked in pro play, but you just have to use it because it's so hard to even get a level with the recent health nerf with Surge. And then Surge, damage and shield pretty much all the time. I mean, of course, if it's a bushy map, you want to swap to like speed and damage, but you definitely need damage with Surge, and then shield. You can never go wrong with that. Next up, we've got Chester. So Candy Beans is by far your better choice. And then in terms of Star Powers, Single Bellow Mania. In terms of your gears, then you can swap between a lot, but make sure you definitely have the damage gear. I like the gadget cooldown because I'm just spamming through a bunch of different buffs for whatever reason, but it's probably overkill. I would go for like a speed or a shield or something along those lines, but definitely go with the damage gear. Next we have Cordelia. So both gadgets are really, really effective, by the way, and there's always a debate which one's the better one. I think in pro play, replanting it is definitely better because it can allow you to jump over walls, it can allow you to dodge supers. It's just good for that reason. But Poison Mushroom is very good against like you normally pick Cordelia's into tanks and into assassins, so a Poison Mushroom helps you hard counter them even more, but it's not actually really that needed since the damage buff. And then of course use Combo Shrooms because since his damage buff he just literally shreds through everything, so Combo Shrooms to help you with that. And then damage and shield gear with Cordelia's, yeah, of course you go that. Next up, we've got Kit. So Kit, cardboard box every single time, and then overly attached in 3 versus 3 in Showdown Power Hungry, because either Star Power doesn't work in the contrary mode. I don't even know how to say that word properly, but you get what I mean. Next up, we got damage gear and shield gear. Again, you never really want to swap away from these. I mean, sometimes you might want to go with the gadget cooldown just because it helps you cycle through super a lot more effectively, and the more supers you get, the more hypercharges you can get as well. Next up, we've got Draco. So Draco, definitely last stand, by far a better option, and same with Shredding. In Heist though, Expose is the better Star Power because you can of course mark the high safe for 5 seconds, so it's good for that reason in a base race, but Shredding is better. And then again with Draco, depends on the map. Most people use speed and damage, and then a lot of people on an open map use this setup. I actually like using this gadget here. I like using gadget cooldown because of how broken last stand is, but I think the better choice probably is health gear and damage on those open maps with Draco. Next up, Kenji. You've got the healing gadget every time. Same with the second star power. You use this every single time. And then again, you just use this setup, because with Kenji, any kind of lifesteal or healing element in your kit, if you use the damage gear, it allows you to heal more. So why wouldn't you have the damage gear with Kenji? And then shield gear, he's an assassin, so he needs that extra bit of health because he's always going to be in combat. And then finally, finally with Kaze, we have gadgets and star powers. So both gadgets can actually be pretty useful. To begin with, I thought upon release, this would be the better gadget. And then it got shown that when you get shot, like, you lose your invisibility. But I think because of 6-second cooldown, how quickly you spam it, people they're not going to have the ammo to just constantly check and think that you're invisible, right? So you actually are able to sneak up on people. This one is good on, like, I don't know, Brawl Ball, you know, maps that you don't need invisibility. This can be better, but pretty much I'd say 90% of the time you go this gadget. Helps you build up your super a lot more frequently than star powers. Every pro uses second star power. I've been saying since the day #1 of Kaze's release, this star power is better because it just allows you to get extra invisibility with your gadget, because it increases the effects of your gadgets. So increases duration of the effects, sorry. So you get more, of course, invisibility. And this one, again, just doesn't make sense. Like, with Kaze, you hardly ever use your geisha form to deal damage, really. And you don't really need to slow to confirm kills with it. So, in terms of gears as well, I really, really, really like the health gear on Kaze. But most pros, pretty much all of them, use damage gear. So, yeah, take that of what you will. I mean, damage gear makes sense with Kaze just because she's an assassin. But I really like health gear, mainly because it just allows you to switch to your gadget and just a lot quicker, right? You get more value. And last but not least, we have the 2 new brawlers. So of course things can change once I get my hands on them inside of the game, but I thought I'd show you guys just in case nothing really changes here. So in terms of the gadgets, then I think definitely electric shuffle is going to be the better one. You can just spam out attacks onto people, which is just crazy for extra DPS, just for extra area control. It's kind of, well, it's just a way better version of Penny's gadget. I mean, this one will be good defensively, so both of them will be okay. Definitely will be really strong gadgets. And then in terms of the star powers, then absolutely the second star power is going to be the better one. An increase in damage is just always one of the best star powers to have. And when you hit a shot and then afterwards you get 30% damage boost, why wouldn't you want that? So it's quite clear to me that this first gadget is going to be a lot better and the second star power is going to be a lot better. And then I think with a thrower, you just go damage and shield. It's pretty plain and simple with a thrower. And then lastly, Mina. So Mina did receive a big nerf to the second gadget. I don't even know whether that was well documented, but I was a big advocate for this. Like, straight away I said you need to be nerfing this probably to like double what it is right now. But I still think it's the better gadget overall, even though this gadget is also very, very strong, like insanely strong. I think this will be better on knockout and bounty, so I probably recommend getting both gadgets for Mina, but this one will be the better one, especially in the game modes where she'll be better in, like gem grab, brawl ball. What you want to be doing is recycling your super through this gadget, so it'll be a very strong gadget for sure. Why wouldn't you want a super that instantly recharge, especially with one like a such toxic super? And then in terms of the star power, I think both of them are actually pretty good. I think if you're going to run this combination here with the super, where you get your super back for free when you hit it, I think the root one will be pretty good as well. But I think personally, like being able to heal with your third combo attack, that seems so toxic in 1 versus 1. Like, I can imagine this one being clearly the better star power, but the second one may be a bit underrated. And again, the same is with Mina. She's going to be an aggressive assassin, so you want to be using damage and shield. I mean, sometimes you might want to run the heal gear, but I think damage is just definitely fine there. So that's gonna be it for today's video, guys. Hope you enjoyed. I think with the new brawlers, these will be pretty much bang on accurate because it's pretty clear and simple what's gonna be good and what's gonna be bad. Anyways, that's gonna be it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.